Bula everyone, my name is Deepika Devi and I'm a third year student studying at the University of the South Pacific. Today I'll be briefly discussing about my assignment. My assignment is it's an essay that I'll be discussing. So let's get started with it. ED250 Education, Psychological and the Teaching Learning Process. Assignment 3. It's a video presentation. My name is Deepika Devi and this is my ID number S111457889. So the topic of my essay is reflective essay on behaviorist and cognitive theories for South Pacific context. So this essay will basically discuss on the Western culture influence on our formal education system in our Pacific. So talking about this, it has been seen that in our 21st century, the Western culture has a greater influence in our formal education system. So formal education system basically means the school system and the school system where the curriculum plays a very important role. Culture plays an important role in everyone's life. With culture comes customs, ideas, and how a person should behave in the society. So, looking at nowadays, we can say our culture has built our identity. So, culture is something that comes with our ancestors and with our people who have with our it comes with the generation basically. Western culture has a major influence on our that that has a major influence and affected our formal education system in the South Pacific. The influence of Western culture is on both teaching and learning ways. In other words, it's like it has affected teachers, the behavior of how students are learning nowadays. Therefore, this video presentation will discuss the thoughts of Western belief and system and how it has affected our culture and it has incorporated into our formal education system. This essay will also talk about behaviorism and cognitive theories. That is a reference. These two is going to be a reference for this essay. So so that's the introduction part. So moving on with our presentation. The relationship between formal and informal education. Culture plays an important role in everyone's life. As we have discussed before, culture is one thing affected that is something which has affected everyone, the way affected in terms that it has it has helped many students in their learning system, and it is still helping in the learning system. So the relationship between formal and informal education is informal education. We are talking about the education that our ancestors that education which comes from our culture, our beliefs, and our customs. And formal educations, we all know that formal education talks about writing, pen, paper stuff, and what's on our desk. So what we read, those kind of things are our formal education. The relationship of these two are very critical, and it is important for us teachers and us students, everyone's responsibility to make sure that the relationship between these two are very are balanced. The influence of Western education on the formal and informal education has its own positive and negative effects on the students, on the teachers, and also to the community. These Western cultures This Western culture is often called the Pacific formal education system, as affected in these changes have affected and exposed people to modernization, different style of living, changing in their dressing style, eating style, communication, and so forth. With Western culture, there comes positive and negative impact. First, we'll talk about the positive impact. The impact of Western culture has introduced new ideas in formal education, as we have seen nowadays that our school system it has incorporated a computer learning skills. In the olden days, in the education system, the computer learning skills was not introduced. Most of the students we can say in the 2013 and so in those years 2013 2014 or before that in 2000s 2004 2005 2006 those years students did not know how to use computer, and with the upcoming changes due to the Western culture and due to the Western incorporating in our education system, we have seen that nowadays students are having a computer learning skills in their schools, which is a really big thing, and it which is a really big thing, and it also helps them with their upcoming their future. For their future, it is helping the students to get better knowledge about it. And the second positive impact we can talk about is that it has improved the lifestyle of people and improved the education system. Yes, with Western culture, we can say that the most effective thing, the most positive impact with that has come to our education system. Our education system has improved a lot with the involvement of Western culture. So, so it is a really good thing. But when there is a positive thing, it also comes with the negative as well. Negative is something that negative impact has affected people with it. Most of us we don't think about it, but there are negative impact. So the negative impact of the Western culture has caused culture loss. Culture loss one thing that has affected people, and slowly we can see that. Culture loss, for example, I can tell that most of our Ethiopian Fijian students, or even our Indian students, we don't know the culture, the method of cooking, the traditional method of cooking, the traditional method of living, or the traditional way of life. We don't know how our ancestors were living. For example, the mat weaving. Most of our students nowadays they don't know how mat weaving is done. It is because of that people have forgotten about it. They don't ask their grandparents, or they don't get involved in those kind of things, because due to westernization, due to modernization, with new technologies nowadays people are mostly in their phone, with their laptop, or they are watching movies or those kind of things. They hardly interact with their culture, the traditional things, the traditional ways, method. Hardly students get, and children are forgetting their traditional customs and informal education. Informal education is not that well. So with this, we can say that our behaviorism of theory comes there. In the olden days, uh, behaviorism theory is we can say it is a theory that children learn through others behaviors. The way we behave, the way our ancestors behave, we used to see that, observe that. Observing is one thing that's a really big that is a really important thing. So when students see those kind of things, they involve themselves with it. But nowadays, with the changing time, with the changing behavior, the behaviorism theory has not that well incorporated with our learning system. Students hardly incorporate or hardly we can say they hardly get involved in those kind of things that are related to our culture. Students have slowly forgotten about our culture, and it is it is very heartbreaking to see that our students, myself, I also include with the students myself, it's very heartbreaking to see that we don't know these kind of traditional culture things. Our customs, our beliefs are getting lost. It's losing its identity due to this kind of changes. Behavior and thinking are two things that are related to a student's learning process. But due to the impact of Western culture and change in education and curriculum system, students nowadays have a lot of sources which they can access things regarding their studies and other information as well. So it is very important that the environment that is created due to this Western influence, it is a very critical environment, as it is important to help, as is as it this kind of environment helps the students to get the information, and we teachers, our parents, and every the society has to make sure that what kind of information our students are taking in and what kind of information is being discarded. So cognitive development in children depends on what kind of environment or the immediate community and society is teaching the children. With the influence of Western culture, it has brought many changes in our life and on the way of our living style. These kind of changes has affected a children's cognitive development in both positive and negative ways. These changes have taught the children how to deal with modernization technologies and other development, which is a positive thing as well, as this will help them in their future. To conclude this presentation, it can be said that Western culture has the biggest impact on on the people nowadays, as it has improved their lifestyle, their education system in the Pacific. The acceptance of improving in the learning system has boosted in a way that people are nowadays living in the modernization society in this 21st century. But it has also caused a great impact, as the traditional education system and cultural beliefs and cultural custom has been left behind. Whereas it is that everyone whereas it is everyone's responsibility to see that both practices are important, and both of these practices are going hand in hand with the children's learning system. So the so we can say that now, with the upcoming changes, it has been seen that people have now accepted these cultures, this Western culture in our education system and in our cultural system as well. So, but it is our responsibility, it is everyone's responsibility to see that both of our informal and formal education and our traditional culture is not left behind. It is always incorporated in the education system. And talking about the two theories, behaviorism and cognitive, they are not that supported in the teaching and learning system that in the olden days, but due to the fast moving world and with the time changing, teachers have started to incorporate these theories in they in their learning system. They have started to give attention to these kind of theories, and these two theories is going to help in carrying the traditional and cultural learning ways in the future. uh, Thank you so much for listening to our thank you so much for listening to my video. I hope this gives you a brief idea of what kind of essay that I have written. So thank you so much.